Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cohen back here again today with another video. And real quick, I want to wish you all a happy and healthy new year. I hope that 2023 is the best that you have ever had. And I know for this channel, that is 100% going to be the case. Things are only going to get bigger and better, and it's all thanks to y'all's support that we just had the best year in the history of the channel. So thank you all so much. And to celebrate, I thought what better way than to go ahead and make 10 bold predictions for the year of 2023 in hoops. This is not only going to encapsulate the rest of this season, but also the off season and the beginning of next year, all the way up until the new year heading into 2024, which doesn't feel like it should be a real year. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and comment down below one bold prediction you have for 2023 in hoops. Let's go ahead and get right into it. The first bold prediction I have is that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving will be Brooklyn Nets at the end of the calendar year. That seems a little bit far-fetched, at least when you consider the way things went this past offseason. Kevin Durant publicly requested a trade, and it seemed all but guaranteed that he would no longer be on Brooklyn at the start of the year. As for Kyrie Irving, it seemed pretty much consensus that he wanted out. He didn't really want to be there. It seemed like he wanted to be a Los Angeles Laker, and then he had some controversies at the beginning of the season. The Nets started off really rough. Steve Nash got fired, and it was a complete disaster and dumpster fire. However, everyone says winning solves everything, and that seems to have maybe been the case with Brooklyn, as we haven't heard much of a peep out of anybody since they've gone on this 11-game win streak that they're on. They're finding a ton of success. They're the second seed in the Eastern Conference, and I think that the Nets are going to continue on this solid run in the regular season into a pretty deep playoff run, to the point where Kevin Durant and Kyrie look at their situation and say, we're not going to find better winning options out there. Kyrie Irving is a free agent, so there is a chance he leaves for, say, a Los Angeles, but I don't think he's going to see that as a much better destination for winning. They right now are going through their own problems, and if they continue to have this success, he might say, hey, Brooklyn's probably just the best place for me to be. And then for Kevin Durant, he requested a trade, but even if he gets traded somewhere, that team has to give up a bunch of assets to acquire him, thereby weakening the squad by the time he gets there. I think that they're going to continue to find the success, decide, hey, Brooklyn is the best shot for us to win a title, and they will still be Nets when 2024 rolls around. My second prediction is that the Timberwolves will no longer have Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell on the roster by the end of the year. D'Angelo Russell is a bit easier to see, as he is a free agent, and since they acquired him for Andrew Wiggins from the Golden State Warriors, he hasn't exactly lived up to the hype. So I wouldn't be surprised if they let him walk in free agency, or say maybe do a sign and trade with a team that wants to bring him in but doesn't have the cap space. However, Cat has long time been one of the faces of this franchise, so it seems a lot harder for him to maybe be gone than, say, a D'Angelo Russell. However, I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to realize they made a big mistake trading for Rudy Gobert, but they put so many assets into acquiring him that they can't trade him. That would be a huge admission of defeat. I think instead they'll say, okay, we still have Anthony Edwards. Gobert we still think could be successful with a more traditional four next to him, so let's go ahead and trade Karl Anthony Towns. We could get a massive haul of role players to put around Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, and some of the rest of the guys they have on that roster, and try and reshape things that way. I don't think it'll be very successful, but I think that's what ends up happening. My third bold prediction is maybe a more hopeful one, and it's that the Oklahoma City Thunder will trade for an all-star caliber player over the course of the offseason. There are going to be a lot of guys I think that will become available, and in particular some that could maybe fit the Thunder's timeline. With Chet Holmgren coming back next season, GIlgeous-Alexander rising up to be an all-NBA caliber player, some other guys showing signs of improvement as well as maybe a potential lottery pick in this upcoming draft. There's a lot of talent on the table for OKC, and it's starting to seem like maybe 2023 will become the year that the Thunder decide we're going to go ahead and try and compete. So I think a lot of all-stars could become available. The Thunder have a ton of assets, more than basically any other team, to go out and trade for one of those all-star caliber players. So I think the Thunder go ahead and make that move as they continue to try and rise up to regain their form of contenders that they once were. My fourth bold prediction is one that is a little less bold than the other ones, and it's that Nikola Jokic will three-peat as the MVP. It might seem bold to some people who don't really watch Jokic play or don't understand the impact that he's having, but right now Jokic is the front runner for MVP for the third straight season. Jason Tatum's alongside him there in that conversation. Luka Doncic is rising up the ranks as well, dropping 50, 60 basically every other night at this point, which is amazing. The Mavericks are rising up in the standings, so I think he will make a case pretty soon too. You still got Giannis in the mix of things. If Steph Curry comes back and has a really great run, maybe he gets a little bit of love, albeit the missed games will probably be too much of a hurdle for him to overcome. come. Joel Embiid and the Sixers are starting to rise up as well. There are still so many great candidates, but the way that Jokic is playing right now, and I picked the Denver Nuggets before the season to be the 1 seed, I think they'll end up getting that in the Western Conference. He will lead them to a really deep playoff run, and by the end of the season, and even the end of the year, a lot of people will start to consider Jokic the best player in the world, and he will become just the 4th player ever to three-peat as MVP. My 5th prediction is that Russell Westbrook will head into 2024 as a Los Angeles Laker, and that one seems very absurd, I'm sure, to a lot of you, but here's my reasoning. Russ is going to be off that max contract this offseason, and I don't expect him to get a ton of great offers, beyond, say, maybe a minimum or a few $1 million like a mid-level exception. I just don't think that will end up being the case with the way this season has gone, and so I wouldn't be surprised if Russ says, okay, I'm just going to stick it out in Los Angeles. He's been committing to this bench role, and he's been pretty solid in that bench role. I think the Lakers wouldn't mind having him as their bench point guard for the foreseeable future, and I could just see both sides saying, okay, you know what, we're going to go ahead and stick together. He gets, like, say, a minimum or a mid-level exception deal to continue to be their backup point guard. They bring someone else in, and who knows if the Lakers find any success, but this is just one that I kind of feel like would end up happening. My 6th bold prediction is one that I honestly hope does not happen, and it's that Trae Young requests a trade from the Atlanta Hawks. I know this is already a rumor that's been out there, but the idea of him requesting a trade as a young player when he seems to really love and embrace Atlanta, it seems really far-fetched. It doesn't seem like it'll happen, but there are a lot of warning signs going on right now in the Hawks franchise. Trae Young and Nate McMillan had that beef, and Nate McMillan seems to even be considering retiring as a head coach at the end of the year. Not that I think he would be back either way. You've got the general manager and president of basketball operations stepping down and switching roles. That's a little bit concerning. The Hawks themselves haven't found a lot of success despite trading for another all-star caliber player in DeJounte Murray in the offseason. It's just not been great. And so while I do think Trae Young loves Atlanta, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the year, he's really circulating in those trade rumors. However, I don't think he will end up being traded because, once again, he's a young player on a long-term contract. As we saw with Kevin Durant, teams, just because they're a trade request, don't have to trade players. And maybe the Atlanta Hawks, they make a big move to maybe make Trae reconsider his trade request, and he ends up staying in Atlanta. But I do think by the end of the year, it'll be pretty well known that Young does not want to be in Georgia at the moment. My next bold prediction is that someone in the NBA scores 70 points over the course of 2023. This might seem kind of crazy, as the last time we saw 70 points came from Devin Booker, and before that, it's very rare that we ever see a player score 70 plus points in a game. But the way scoring is going right now, in particular, Luka Doncic is a name I'm keeping an eye on. He had 60 points the other night in a triple-double effort. He's had 50 in 2 of his other last 5 games. He's a scoring machine, and he is the guy in particular that I'm looking at to maybe put up this feat. But the way that we're seeing 50 bombs, 60 bombs, I think a 70 bomb isn't that far off. I think somebody will just say, hey, I'm going to take over tonight, score 70 points, and it's one of those memorable moments that we look back on and say, wow, offensive talent is better than it's ever been. My 8th bold prediction is that Zach Lavine will get traded to the New York Knicks. This is one of those that's just kind of a gut feeling. I think him and DeMar DeRozan are both out the door sooner than later for Chicago. The team's going to look to blow things up after realizing that they're not a title contender, whether it's at the deadline or in this upcoming offseason. And I think DeRozan will be the first to get dealt, as Zach Lavine is still relatively young and under a long-term contract, but I do think he will end up getting traded. And for some reason, I feel like it's the Knicks that come calling. They've been looking for a star player for a while now. They were trying to get Donovan Mitchell to come to the Big Apple, and Zach Lavine isn't quite as good as Donovan Mitchell, but he once again brings a high-level scoring shooting guard that they seem to be seeking out, and putting him in the starting lineup next to Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. Assuming none of those guys get moved in the deal, if the Knicks offer Chicago a package of, say, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, maybe even an Obi Toppin, who's rumored to be in trade talks as well, alongside some first-round picks and some salary filler, all of a sudden you have a deal that might make sense for both sides. The New York Knicks get their star player to help upgrade at the shooting guard position, and the Chicago Bulls get a pretty good start to their rebuild. And ultimately, I don't know if this one's going to happen whatsoever. It's just kind of a gut feeling I have. My 9th prediction is once again one of those gut feelings, and it's that Victor Wembanyama will end up as a San Antonio Spur. As much as I want to see him on the OKC Thunder, and I'm sure a lot of you fans of rebuilding teams out there want to see him on your franchises, I don't know what it is, just for some reason I feel like Victor is going to end up becoming the next great big man for the Spurs. We saw David Robinson, we saw Tim Duncan. I feel like Victor Wembanyama is going to be the next in a long string of names. I'm sure Greg Popovich and the Spurs front office would be ecstatic to get a player of his caliber there in San Antonio, and I don't know, it just feels like to me they always seem to find a way to get the best prospect possible in the very rare occasions situations where they tank. And I think Victor Wembanyama ends up in San Antonio to play alongside some of their young talent and gives them an immediate guy to build around for the future. And my 10th and final bold prediction is that for the first time in the history of the play-in tournament, a play-in team wins a first-round playoff series. Now, you might think that that's kind of crazy, that's a major upset, but this is mainly due to the real parity that exists in the NBA at the moment. And in particular, I'm looking at the Western Conference for this to maybe happen. Things are so close out there. Right now, the difference between the 1-seeded Denver Nuggets and the 9-seeded Golden State Warriors, who haven't had Steph Curry for a little while and will eventually get him back, and are also the reigning NBA champions, it's 5.5 games. Like, that is such a small gap between those two teams, and there are so many great squads. Right now, if the play-in tournament started today, the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors would be in the play-in tournament, as well as the Portland Trail Blazers, who have looked really solid when healthy this year, and are about to get back Gary Payton II, a tenacious defender. To me, it feels like everything is so close right now that even if you're a 2-seed playing a 7-seed, you might only be separated by like 4 games in the standings. That, to me, makes a recipe for a potential massive upset, and while some fans of those top seeds might not be happy with this take, I think ultimately we see one of those teams out west take out a 1 or a 2 seed coming out of the play-in tournament, which completely shakes the NBA. And those are my bold predictions for 2023. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe below if you enjoyed, as well as hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. Once again, comment down below your thought on these bold predictions, as well as one of your own, and I'll try to react to as many as I can in the comments. Appreciate y'all watching. Hope you have a happy and healthy 2023. I'll see y'all later. Real one, safe back.